Which of the following options describes an occasion during Robert Mugabe power over Zimbabwe? All right. All right, so we're discussing the presidency of Robert Mugabe here. So all of the above describes conditions during Robert Mugabe's power over Zimbabwe, killing of the Ndebele tribes and tribalism with divide and rule, unlawful confiscation of lands to provide for military and political purposes. Okay, so there's a lot of things going on. Recapping why we're discussing an African country is colonial powers and what happens when they decolonize. All right, it does affect the state within and neighboring states here. So let's give you an example here using what was known as Southern Rhodesia. Um, Robert Mugabe. So he becomes president in 1980s. For the state of Southern Rhodesia, right? Now, Southern Rhodesia was under the colonial power of the British, right? The British colonial powers. Eventually, they became independent in 1964. What happened there was the white minority government, attempted to state power, but guerrilla warfare broke out. These tribal warfares were still increasing, and they handed over power to a guy named President Mugabe, elected, well-educated person. All right. So now here we're still discussing decolonization. What happens, right? Now, the way Robert Mugabe kind of governed over Zimbabwe, right? Because he renamed Southern Rhodesia Zimbabwe to relive like this ancient name here. He began unlawful confiscation of lands to provide for military and political purpose, right? So when he overthrew, or when the white minority government kind of gave up and gave Robert governmental powers, he began to unlawfully confiscate lands from the white minorities and kind of push the white out of Zimbabwe. Now, he distributed amongst his army, of course, and his political, officials, whoever supported him politically, right? Now, these individuals, they weren't, farmers. They weren't, skilled at farming. Like, you can give the person the land, but if they don't know how to cultivate on the land, you can't really do much of it. You can't really do much with it. Sorry. So what happens there is food harvestation that all goes downfall, and there's no food, and hunger rises in Zimbabwe. A lot of individuals from Zimbabwe, they start running off, or they start migrating towards neighboring countries like Southern Africa. They have to deal with these hungry Zimbabweans, right? He also went along with tribalism, with divide and rule and killing of Ndebele tribes, right? So the killing of Ndebele tribes and tribalisms with divide and rule. Now, prior to the British colonial powers, right? Africa was, it was a mixture of tribes, right? So when you go colonize, you're kind of working with what you have at the moment. What's the current structure, right? And they have these African tribes, right? So you have the Chona tribe, and then you have the Ndebele tribe, all right? And the British kind of maintain power over them by keeping them divided, so it's easier to rule them, right? So you have tribalism with divide and rule. Of course, one tribe was given governmental powers over the next tribe, all right, and then the inferior tribe, or what's considered the inferior tribe, kind of rejects any form of authority from the governing tribe. That just happens naturally, right? So the killing of Ndebele tribes and tribalism with divide and rule kind of also impacted Zimbabwe, all right, under the presidency of Mugabe's power, under the Robert Mugabe's presidency. All right, so these were free conditions during his presidency.